Okay, first of all, the shir tonight is dedicated in memory of Sassel Bas Yitzchak. And the Nishma should have an aliyah.
Amen.
Amen. There is something that hits me about the Jewish world, and I see it on various different levels, and that's what I find to be a greater fragmentation of our understanding of Jewishness, where there's always talk about the importance and significance of the unity of Klal Yisrael, and the fact that we should all be together and unified and so forth and so forth. But what I feel is happening very much so is greater fragmentation of distinction between different distinctions within the Jewish world. And it's on various different levels, on many different levels. And the challenge is that everyone thinks about the benefits of unity and the importance for us to be connected and unified. But the fact is most people don't really figure out how to really unify. What you'd find is diverse viewpoints and variant viewpoints. Most people think in terms of shalom, they think in terms of peace, they think in terms of unity. It usually is similarity. The argument is for everyone to be the same. And if everyone's the same, then we'll have unity. And perhaps the purest example of that is maybe like communism, where you talk in terms of equality of everyone, and therefore there's the whole idea of communism is the importance of the community and the importance of the collective. And therefore, if you're going to be the importance of the collective, the importance of the community, everyone becomes a comrade. And basically, what you really perceive is very much a movement towards similarity. Distinction becomes a problem. Fact is that we also value distinction. We also do value individuality and difference. The point is usually when you have strong distinctions between people or strong divergence of opinion, usually it makes for unity and for a concept of cohesiveness. It usually makes it a much more difficult concept to achieve. Fact is that what most people don't recognize is on so many different levels, Torah is about the unity of divisiveness. And it's about at the same point in time when we talk in terms of Kadosh Baruch Hu, in terms of God, we talk about Him being one, and in that definition of His oneness is also recognition that there's a oneness that emerges from almost like an incomprehensible divisiveness. And that's something on many different levels I want to address as I think a fundamental issue in their understanding of Jewishness. Because we don't recognize how wide the spectrum exists within Jewish thought, and we don't recognize that the very idea that there's such a spectrum of consciousness within Jewish thought is really the challenge of Judaism in developing the concept of unity. The very idea of God being one is because that oneness is actually incomprehensible to the human being. Right? In many ways, it's the very idea. We talked about oneness in terms of God's oneness, and it's because that oneness is so, from the way we look at it, it's such a spectrum of divisiveness. So we look at the world and we see so many different ideas happening in the world, and how does it all come together into one God? The fact is that in many ways is the root issue of avodah zarah, of idolatry. Idolatry in many ways was the inability to see one root for all the powers that exist in this world. On a simple level, we look at Greek mythology, right? Mars didn't get along with Aphrodite, okay? Or Ares. Or let's use the Greek terms. Mars didn't get along with Aphrodite's, who is it? Ares didn't get along with Mars didn't get along with Venus, and Ares didn't get along with Aphrodite. Which one is which? But the fact is, it's the same. It's the same gods, in the sense that the god of war didn't get along with the god of beauty, and they're at conflict. How could the god of beauty have anything to do with the god of war? Okay, and the god of war was interested in the god of beauty basically because he wanted to conquer, the god of beauty, the goddess of beauty. Fact is that in many ways is what idolatry is about. Idolatry is about giving forces to diversity. And it really emerges from the inability to see the unity. The ultimate sort of sophisticated version of idolatry became Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism was the major religion of Babel. When we talk about in our Musaf we say Shema Yisrael, right? In the Kedusha of Musaf we include Shema Yisrael. Why do we say Shema Yisrael at that point in time? Because the Babylonians the Babylonian religion had people checking out the Jews when they davened. And they made it a law that the Jews could not say Shema Yisrael out loud, because the major religion of Zoroastrianism major religion of Babel was Zoroastrianism. And Zoroastrianism believed in two gods, a good God and an evil God. And the whole religion was a fight between these two gods, and you had to pick your side and be on that side. Fact is that they found that the statement Shema Yisrael was an offensive to the religion. It was basically saying, listen, Jews, we'll let you hang out here, but we don't want you proclaiming what we consider to be a blasphemous statement that there's only one God. Not only that, we think that that's ludicrous. How could good and evil come from the same source? So therefore the guards stuck around for the beginning of the service, and then they left. And the Jews inserted the Shema Yisrael in the Musaf Kaddish because they wanted to proclaim Shema Yisrael. We don't recognize how significant Shema Yisrael is. We also don't recognize how unbelievably challenging that concept is. Okay? Fact is that how do you get good and evil, quote unquote evil or bad, from the same entity? In our tefillah, in davening, we say Yosef Or V'Yei Choshech, okay? Yosef Shalom Oborei Sasakol, right? Yosef Or, creator of light, Oborei Choshech, and the creator of darkness, okay? Yosef Or Choshech, what? Yosef Or Choshech, Yosef Shalom, okay? And the maker of peace and the creator of all. The actual pasuk that comes from actually does not say Borei Etakol. That's in our tefillah. But the tefillah that it comes from, I forget what Navi it's from, it actually says Borei Ra, the creator of Ra. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the creator of Ra. Okay? when you read about Satan, in, let's say, the book of Eob and so forth and so on, Satan's just an angel. He has no more powers than any other angel. He doesn't have any individual power. He doesn't have any of his own powers. He's basically a Shliach Hashem. The whole concept of Satan that developed in Christianity was really the development. They needed an entity to be the source of evil. Okay, therefore he was the fallen angel of Satan. It's totally foreign to Jewish thought. Everything comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That means good and evil. Evil being Ra, or being evil. But the truth of the matter is we have to define evil. What really is evil? And the fact is the contradistinction to that is the understanding that there is unity and oneness is the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He is the essence of oneness, which means everything comes from him.
But it's like a holistic oneness.
Whatever it is. You're already getting into definitions of that oneness, but the truth of the matter is, when you say it's like a holistic oneness, what happens to divisiveness? Is that oneness contrary to divisiveness?
What's divisiveness?
The distinctiveness.
Oh,
the difference.
No.
Okay?
Within the system, no.
So the fact is, okay.
That's what you just said.
So therefore, every individual power, every individual idea, every individual emotion, has to somehow come together in terms of a oneness, while it also has an existence in divisiveness. The truth is that's the real definition of Tov and Ra within Jewish thought. Tov, when we talk about the Yetzer Tov, what is it? Everyone says it's a good inclination. People like to think in terms of the cartoons, little devil and the little angel. What really is Tov?
Almost like a conscience.
It's just a conscience?
Well,
so let's look at that drive that sits and says, I want that good salami sandwich. Okay, that drive for hunger, that drive for pleasure. What is that? What kind of drive is that? Animalistic. So it's what? So is that Tov or Ra?
Could be both.
Okay, so how's it both? So how do you use it for Tov and how do you use it for Ra?
You're having kids, I guess you're using it for Tov, right?
Because of that idea.
Yeah.
So you're still using that drive singularly and by itself.
It's either physical or spiritual.
So you're saying the difference is spiritual and physical. By the way, in my tone of voice, I'm basically saying you're all wrong.
Yeah.
Not only wrong, but fundamentally wrong. Okay? If I was giving you a class on Judaism, I'd sit there and say, okay, give yourself a 0.
So there is no bad explanation then.
No, there is. What is the Yetzer Hara? What's the Yetzer Tov? Spirituality and physical? No, they're both equal in that regard. Why are they both equal? Having a sexual drive to have kids and having a sexual drive just for pleasure, both equal.
Right.
At a certain level, spirituality drive is equal. Absolutely equal to the drive to...
They're equal because they come from same source? Is that...
why are they equal?
I have a question.
Tell me.
I have a question.
Where's the source?
I have a question.
Oh, therefore they both come from God. So how do you understand it? Remember, God's not physical.
So what's Tov? So I understand.
So what's Tov?
What's Ra?
So what's Ra? Okay.
Ra is my understanding is that it's what takes away from, I guess, Hashem. So.
And why does it take away from Hashem?
Why? Because it connects. Well, who you want to go by? You want to go by Rambam? You want to go by more?
No, why does it take away from Hashem?
Because it's focusing on something that's outside.
And what does it mean if what does it mean to focus on Hashem?
It means that everything in your essence is connected to the idea of serving Hashem.
Which means, you're not talking about connecting to Hashem, you're talking about serving Hashem. That's your job. What does it mean to connect with Hashem?
So if you, like, for instance, let's take eating a sandwich, right? So you're
eating. I can simplify it. Okay. You have to do Hashem is to know that it's to not Because if you think for 1 second, about Hashem and that Hashem was always there from the beginning, from before time,
There's no doubt.
you're going to think too much. The essence of Hashem is Tamin Tihim Hashem Elokecha. That's the essence. Tamin Tihim Hashem Elokecha.
Right, but the fact is that
and then you're supposed to cry.
by the way, I already gave you the answer.
Oh, okay.
What did I talk about beforehand? As a definition of God.
War.
Being
A combination of...
a one, but at the same time being diverse, right? Like,
And the essence of God is oneness.
yeah.
Shema Yisrael basically states the unity of God. So the fact of the matter is the distinction is whether the act that you're undertaking or the drive you're undertaking, what's the connection to Hashem? It means how does it connect with the unity and the oneness of your being or of existence or of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the difference in what you're telling me about whether you're having relations with your wife, okay, speaking from the male perspective or from the female perspective, the woman is having relations with her husband, and so the difference is that connect to the oneness of the being or the oneness of reality, or is it the manifestation of a singular drive? Avodah Zarah, idolatry, is a manifestation of a singular drive.
So it's simplistic.
It was very spiritual.
It's simplistic.
It was extremely spiritual, simplistic. It was because spirituality can be a very singular drive, right? It's a drive.
So the people who were up there, Avodah Zarah, they look at things like everything is black and white. They not see that you can murder. You can murder.
No. Don't try and every drive is different. Spirituality can be a singular drive. Okay, I want my spiritual kick. I want my spirituality. Okay, I want to have that feeling of spirituality. The psychologist Maslow talked about the drive of spirituality, and how he said you don't need God to have spirituality, you just need a feeling of spirituality. So therefore, you have a lot of people who really want spirituality. They don't believe in God; they want that feeling of spirituality. Yoga, meditation or something like that. The fact is
spiritual, but not religious.
Yeah,
not
absolutely.
Believing in that, but they like to be spiritual.
Right.
Whatever that is.
And that's a manifestation of a singular drive in its diversity. Now, that person may have this singular drive and that singular drive. I remember there was once a guy, strange story. When I was in university, I was I was sort of like, I guess I was in the last board of whatever, student board of an organization called the Canadian Union of Jewish Students. It was eventually overtaken by Network. I don't know if Network's still around, but I was like a board member of the Canadian University of Jewish, the Canadian Union of Jewish Students, of University Students, or whatever, CUJUS. I remember going to a convention here in Toronto. It was a Shabbat convention and so forth. So students from all over the country came over and so forth and so forth. So we went to this. It was a convention. It was actually very nice. It was at the Inland Park. The Federation liked us. Okay, so we had this convention at the Inland Park. Okay, so I went there and there was a guy there. I think it was from Vancouver. This was my first convention as a CUJUS. Somehow I just got involved also, and I got put up to the board or whatever. But this guy came to many other conventions. That was my first convention, so forth. And he was sort of known as like the frum guy in the group. Okay. He was the guy who always raised the minyanim. He was the guy who did it. And he would walk around and say, "Gotta make minyan. We're going to have a minion tonight," and he'd be walking around, so forth and so forth. And that was his reputation. He was like the quote-unquote rabbi guy. He was like the spiritual guy, and so forth and so forth. Okay, great. Okay, fine. Can you make minion? Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay. Within a couple days of the convention, you found out he had another reputation. Okay? He never stayed in the same room 2 nights in a row. Okay? It was like well known. It wasn't just the fact that like so it's like his other thing that it was well known that this guy was the pickup artist of the Kabbalah guy, and for some reason women liked him because he wasn't in the same room. Okay. Every night. Okay.
Sounds like you're talking about my resume.
Okay. So it's like so. I think on the second day of the convention, I go over to him and say, "Listen, I am not judging you. Chas v'shalom, I should judge you. I'm not judging you." But it's like he's walking around with a kippah, his sisters around. I go over to him and said, "Listen, I'm not judging you, but explain it to me. The whole oilam knows you as a guy who's into the religion and spirituality, and you got a dovin, and he's organizing the benching and so forth. On the other hand, you're known as sleeping around everyone." From the opposite sex perspective. Okay. So he looked at me and he said, "There are 2 parts to my personality, right?" Or he said, "There's 2 parts to my personality, right? There is the spiritual side and there's a physical side." Or he might have said there's the halachic side and the non-halachic. There's 2 parts to my personality. Okay? There's 2 parts to my being. There's the Torah side, not Torah side, and sex is the not Torah side. That was his answer. The truth of the matter is, I'm not trying to say idolaters. This guy could be into spirituality, really into it, and say, "Listen, I just had my meditation. It was a great spiritual experience. Now, time for me to go and have whatever else I want." The truth of the matter is that in many ways, that's the way human beings are.
Yeah.
Human beings move from one drive to the next drive. You're eating supper, you're having a good time, then you're full. Right? You're not going anywhere. And by the way, that's the same thing with animals. You go beside a lion who just ate. You'll go up to him, and unless you actually bother him, he's not going to eat you. If he's hungry, you're not going to be walking away. But if he's satiated, totally has no interest in you. But the truth of the matter is that you just ate. Are you going somewhere to eat? No, I'm already full. In 6 hours, you'll want to eat again. That's the way we are. We move from our drives. Fact is, though, is that we have to understand that that's dichotomy. That's divisiveness in our being.
So
That's
program.
Exactly, but that's what we can understand by the Yetzer Hara. To undefine, and by the way, this is in the Ramchal, it's in the Maharal. To define Yetzer Hara as bad drive, when you think about it, we say we're supposed to serve Kodesh Baruch Hu with Shnei Yitzrecha, with the Yetzer Hara. That doesn't mean it's an evil drive. What is Ra? Ra is when a drive only exists in its divisiveness, in its vacuum. Right? Okay, I'm only thinking of my sexual drive, and the only thing on my mind now is to satisfy my sexual drive. Okay, that's Ra. I'm hungry now, the only thing on my mind is my hunger drive. Okay, I'm in a spiritual mood now, the only thing on my mind is my spiritual drive. And the fact is even drives which we think, and by the way, this can also be extremes in terms of chesed, in terms of what we consider to be the better drives. But the fact of the matter is that if your only idea, like talk about drives, if your only concern in the drive is I got to help someone else, then you're not seeing the big picture. HaKadosh Baruch Hu and oneness is the inclusiveness of everything, ultimately seeing the biggest of pictures. That's the distinction between Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara.
So being immersed in something and into it in the spiritual senses,
without a recognition of its place within the totality and the wholeness of things.
Meaning being in a spiritual, like it comes to not understanding, being like in how it connected to Hashem.
Now the fact is if you don't see how it connects with the reality of the fullness of Hashem. Now the truth is the fact is when you think about this,
what does that mean? Practically.
Okay. So the point is that then you think in terms of the individual and you think in terms of the community. Okay, you think in terms of the nation. Not everyone in Klal Yisrael was supposed to be Yisachar. There was Yisachar and Zvulun. Right? There's a person who's supposed to be, there's a famous story of a Chavetz Chaim where there was this guy who was this big gvir, big businessman, who was a big supporter of yeshivas. He was going to close down his business and go learn. He had enough money, he now can go learn all the time, and so forth and so forth. The Chavetz Chaim, I think this is the way I heard the story, met with him and said, let me ask you something. If you're a soldier in the war, right, and you're assigned to the Western Front, and you run away from the Western Front and you go to the Eastern Front, on the Eastern Front, you're heroic and you're unbelievable and you're a hero, what are you? Right? Okay? Because of the way you fought on the Eastern Front. And he says, you're a hero. He says, no, you're a traitor, and you're a traitor, and you're subject to court martial. Why? Because you were assigned to the Eastern Front. Your job is to be the gvir that keeps these yeshivas going. Right? You want to learn now? Very nice. But that's not your job. The fact of the matter is that a nation needs a variety of different people.
Isn't there something that like Torah overrides everything? Or the Torah, so but Torah overrides it?
So the fact is you're getting into issues in terms of doing it, but the truth of the matter is that even with Torah you have to make a parnasa. The fact is that everyone, no, there's certain people, Yechidim, there's special people, so they become the members of the people who are supposed to. In other words, what I'm looking at is the fact that God has created this world, is the fact that there is a conglomeration of different beings that forms a nation, that forms humanity. Okay? And in that regard, the Gemara in Hecht says a remarkable statement about God's creation of Adam. It said God created Adam in the cell. God created every human being in the cellum of Adam, and they're all distinct and unique. Right? The fact is that the idea of unity is a unity that emerges from a spectrum of distinctiveness. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu's oneness is so remarkable is because you look at the world and it's like, how does this all come from one place? If basically oneness was create everyone the exact same way, it's like you look at the world and it's like a kaleidoscope. And it's not only a kaleidoscope, it's a contradictory kaleidoscope. Right? You have contradiction. You have what we call Tov and Ra, or in a more colloquial sense, in the more sense that everything comes from God. How does it work? And therefore, the awesomeness of it is, and this is what you mean by Yiras Hashem and His word. The awesomeness is that I don't understand this. Yeah, and when people ask the question, why do bad things happen to good people? How could a Kodesh Baruch Hu? I don't have an answer for it. But the fact is a very concept that I understand that a God is at the root of everything, is in a certain way a recognition of the awesomeness of what God is and the awesomeness of what the totality of oneness is. And the fact is if you consider that concept of oneness, then what occurs is the challenge of our own oneness. each of us is a unique human being made up of parts. So we have to connect and consider. This is something that Rabbi Yoshe Soloveitchik is very adamant about. What are human beings supposed to be doing? They're supposed to be creating themselves. They are born torn. They are born in parts. And we are trying to create our own being and find a unity. In fact, this is something I was just reading, but the fact is there are people who like to refer to Rabbi Yoshe as an existentialist. Existentialist from existential philosophy. Existential philosophy feels a tremendous amount of angst and anxiety. Because the world is a broken place. The world is a place that it's like, you know, and we on an individual level, we can feel a tremendous amount of anxiety. The fact of the matter is that, yeah, we are broken, and the fact is we have to try and collect the pieces, right? And you think about that, broken and collecting the pieces. Shviras HaKelim and the Klippas, and we got to try and collect the pieces. I'm not getting into missile concepts. I'm not bucking them, but the fact of the matter is that we're talking about the fact that we are parts, and there has to be a unity of these parts.
You're touching on the Zohar.
I am clearly touching it. Right.
It's all
right
and Gilgul, but the Tikkun Olam, the concept of
the fact is Tikkun Olam.
Repair. We're always repairing and repairing and repairing.
And the idea of Tikkun Olam is under the concept of, it's not Tikkun Olam. This word Tikkun Olam has been
bastardized.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's use that term. The word Tikkun Olam has become this a term that just means, helping out those in need. Which there's a concept of that and so on. But you look in terms of Tikkun Olam, Malchus Shakai, okay? On that day, He will be one. He is one, but the fact is that His presence in this world will be recognized as one. U'shmo echad. That's what Shmo means, in the sense that we will recognize His oneness. But the point is that oneness, it's not just the fact it's one God. It's the fact that every element of existence emerges from that one God, and how can we understand it? And therefore, when I go back to it, Judaism could never accept celibacy. Judaism could never accept vows of poverty. Why? Because every drive that we have must have a purpose. Why? Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu created it. And then we have to know how to balance it. So if someone's avaricious to the extreme and is taking care of himself in an extent that's wrong, why? Because he's overextending one drive. And someone who is giving to the extent that he's causing harm to himself or to his family, he's helping out, to interrupt. The fact is I've said this before. The truth is that from a Jewish perspective, let's say a Mother Teresa is not the ideal. Why? Because she ignored herself. She has responsibilities to herself, because the fact is that's the way Kodesh Baruch Hu created us. And then we have responsibilities to do it. But there are certain people who are more Bali Chesed than yes. And that doesn't mean everyone's the same. Right? Certain people have different personalities. But then you look at Klal Yisrael. Okay, and Klal Yisrael as a unified nation. The truth is that in many ways, in so many different ways, you also think it's in terms of Jewish thought. I've been thinking about how many people focus on certain aspects of Jewish thought and not other aspects of Jewish thought. Like nowadays, I think there's a very strong overextension on Jewish nationalism. Doesn't mean that Jewish nationalism doesn't have a value, and I'm not arguing that Jewish nationalism doesn't have a place. I don't know where the place is. Considering that our nation is under attack, you have to consider that the nationalistic aspects of Jewishness are significant. But the point is you have to have an idea of the greater whole. When it says that David, you think in terms of David and Melch. He couldn't build the base of Mikdash, but the base of Mikdash is still called base David. The point of the matter is he basically built up the nation of Klal Yisrael, fought off the enemies. But the fact of the matter is he had to be so focused, and he had to be so focused on it. He had no choice. He basically was not able to really bring to fruition the totality. And there's certain situations where you hear arguments where this is this person's avoda, and it was what this person had to do. There's no, but unfortunately there was a cost. David HaMelech had no choice. He had to do what he had to do, but he couldn't. But by what he was involved with, he couldn't be the final creator of the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Because the Beis Hamikdash had to be of a further totality. And the fact is that I see in our world today, people, and they talk about Jewishness, like we made that joke before about the guy at the convention. But how many Jews today really understand the concept of Taryag Mitzvot? Really understand the variety of mitzvot and the extension of all those mitzvot, and how they all come together, and the challenge of them all coming together. It's not easy, because you have to balance it out.
So what do you do with so many challenges? Like you're getting an argument with someone about who's in the kollel system, right? I'm not saying anything against the kollel system, but there are again arguments that some people will be like, well, because I think they bring a pasuk or something with Mordechai, and one of the highest things you said, if you say Osek and it's a Katan, and it says it doesn't apply to Talmud Torah.
No, the fact is that first of all, a person feels that he's someone who can sit and learn, so that's one issue. Then you have to figure out, okay, how you're going to survive sitting and learning. You have to be someone who's involved in sitting and learning. The fact is, first of all, there's a very distinction between someone whose whole being is in sitting and learning, and you don't see him wasting a minute, versus someone else is telling him you should be sitting and learning, and he's sitting and learning, but he doesn't have the zitz place for it. Right? But he feels that. So the fact is how much are you being told? How much is it coming from you? And then when it's coming from you have to see what are the costs? What that might be your personality. It might be what your avoda is. On the other hand, you have to see the full picture. But you have to understand that seeing the fullness and unity of God is an understanding of the totality of the being, of the existence. Yeah.
So when that said, like when they said "V'hagisabo yomam v'layla,"
yeah,
that doesn't mean literally, because if everyone has a different avoda,
yeah.
Right, so a person could be at work but still be connected to the source spiritually while you're working. You can still be thinking, with Hashem Himself, I'll get this project done on time.
The fact is, Gisa B'Yom Malayla is an Indian in learning. Let's say you're supposed to be involved in learning. It tells you what your mind should be thinking about.
Yeah.
Okay. So the story goes of Yisrael Salanter. Yisrael Salanter memorized Shas by heart. Okay. Why did Yisrael Salanter memorize Shas by heart? Because he thought a good profession for him would be a baker. Baker is basically involved in work and so forth and so forth. And while he's involved in work, he could be chazering Shas in his mind. So he could be involved in learning while he's doing it.
Wow.
Really. Okay? After he learned Shas by heart and was ready to become a baker, he said, wait a second. Someone who's able to memorize Shas by heart like this, he has no business being a baker. Maybe he should go do something else. And says, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. That's a different cheshbon. The truth of the matter is that you see things like the cheshbon of understanding this Yomai and also understanding how you make decisions about yourself and so forth and so forth. You also have to know, like it said, it's like that song, Kenny Robinson, got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them, right? The fact of the matter is, you have to know how to balance things out. The Chofetz Chaim, supposedly in his yeshiva in Radin, the lights went out at 11 o'clock. That's it. The base medrash lights were out at 11 o'clock. The Chofetz Chaim insisted that his talmidim had a good night's sleep. Now, the stories I heard. Why was this so? Because the Chofetz Chaim got sick when he was a younger man. And because he got sick, he couldn't learn for a year.
What kind of snakes, though?
What?
What kind of chakras?
Whatever. They didn't sleep for They had a good night's sleep. The Chofetz Chaim is very makbid that you're healthy. Why? Because he got sick. He got sick because he was so involved in learning that he couldn't learn for a year. The fact of the matter is human beings also need relaxation. Human beings, you hear stories of certain Gedolim. Yeah. They did read books. They did read fiction. They did. The truth of the matter is that you have to understand what your koichos are, and sometimes Rabbi once told me when I was early married, he says, you do have to go out with your wife sometimes. The fact of the matter is that it's Ravar Lichtenstein, right? The story goes is that when he moved there to Israel, he still wanted to see the box scores of every Yankees game. So supposedly, the Rav, his father-in-law, made sure that one of the Talmidim would always get the times when the Yankees were there and cut out the Yankee box scores to be able to send it off to Ravar. The fact of the matter is, Rav Lichtenstein did not waste his time. I'm sure he was very much involved in learning. But his interest in baseball, to the extent it was, I'm sure he didn't sit there and spend hours watching games and so forth and so forth and getting involved in it and so forth and so forth. I know a guy who's into basketball. He usually likes to watch the last 5 minutes of the basketball game. The fact of the matter is that this is also because you understand yourself as a human person. What do you need? Other people need this. You need this. There's different aspects of what different human beings need. The point is, and there's different aspects of what Klal Yisrael needs. There's certain people who need to be this type of person. There's certain people who need to be that type of person. Within the national structure. The point is and then within humanity. Every nation in humanity has a different focus, a different strength, a different ability. Talk about this in terms of the different aspects of what marks the different nations of Shina Mamanim. The point is, though, is that I want to go back to the idea in terms of understanding Jewishness. What you find is people are so focused on one aspect of Jewishness that they don't see Taryag mitzvahs as really an unbelievable spectrum. They don't understand that the unity of what we're aiming for within Torah is a challenge. Putting together all the different parts and finding the way. And what the Rav says is that's really what Torah is about. The fact is we're supposed to create ourselves. Our tafkid is to create ourselves. We have a bunch of parts the way we are ported. The fact is that Kodesh Baruch Hu gave us the rules of how to create ourselves, right, with Torah, which means put together the parts into the unity of who we should be. And that involves understanding a unity of Jewishness. Are there different aspects of Jewishness? Yes. There's this person which is form of Yiddishkeit which focuses on this aspect, and it's focused on that aspect. That one focuses on that aspect. The fact is, though, is then how does it come together? And there's a difference when you understand that whatever you're focusing on has to connect to others. Right? You put it all together. You see the different parts and say, gee whiz, I'm into this, they're into that. How do we connect? Yeah.
Like the Rav said, that everyone has a different avoda, right? So
right.
I kind of like a little bit of a. I know this is maybe a little bit off topic, but Rabbi Akiva, why did he start at 40? Like his tachlit till the age of 40, he was a shepherd, a good one at that.
Right.
So why is it suddenly at 4 years old he
Yeah,
starts
so what do you
learning off
think?
basic?
So what do you think?
Why
What do
didn't
you
he
think?
just?
What do you think?
Why didn't he just stay a shepherd?
What do you think is the remarkable thing about his wife?
Like,
His wife was a bas Chacham also, by the way.
She gave up everything. She gave up her
Why?
She gave up
Why?
For some.
What does it tell you about Rabbi Akiva?
It was worth it.
What did she see in Rabbi Akiva? She was a bas Talmid Chacham. Kala Savua was a Talmid Chacham.
Saw a big
Okay.
potential.
What?
She saw a big potential.
The truth of the matter is she was totally understanding that, wait a second, Rabbi Akiva, yeah, you're a shepherd right now, but you could become Rabbi Akiva. And that's why Rabbi Akiva comes back. He says, everything I am, everything you got is from her.
Yeah, but his whole tachlis until then was being a shepherd.
Yeah, because
so
he didn't. Maybe his tachlis didn't change. Maybe he just didn't
Maybe he
understand
was
it.
meant to be that the whole time.
Maybe he didn't. Yeah. Maybe he just didn't understand it till then.
Wow.
Right?
Wasn't it his drive? Like he wanted
That's
to do
incredible.
that, but he was like,
No, I don't know if Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva,
he was like,
it might be. The Rabbi Akiva wasn't. There's statements from Rabbi Akiva that used to be very angry at Chazal before.
Yeah, he was.
Right. So he had some.
He had a grudge.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like
So
a grudge.
you got this
Because he
confidence.
didn't. But the truth is that maybe he was a thinker until he was a thinker and he had tinus, and then he got answers to those tinus. The fact is that you know something. First of all, it's a tafkid. I don't know what the Kodesh Baruch Hu's tafkid is for him. The truth of the matter is, this is not being critical, because Rabbi Akiva may have not even been a possibility, because he never saw this in himself before, right? Person becomes a Baal Tshuva later in life, all of a sudden, and then he sits there and says, "Gee, I know people. I wish I would have started learning much earlier. I might have been a bigger Talmid Chacham or whatever." Fact is that, but you didn't even know about Torah until you were this age. So, but the fact is that, and it's also possible that you go through shifts and you go through movements.
So back then, you had to be very privileged to be sent to learn or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
that was like the whole thing. Like the Jewish people that knew in these little shells or where they lived, they knew. They just had a very basic, all they knew was drilling there.
Well, the fact is that
they didn't know it all growing up.
No, the point is they knew some things. But the point of the matter is, one thing they did know is that when there was a guy who was special, they somehow knew it. I mean, I was reading something Rav Kook very early in his, and I mean, he's not the only one. You read stories like the Shach, and very young, talking when they were kids, they were already they knew this person was special. But the point is that, see, you guys are focusing a lot on Lima Torah, which is good. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to expand that into a broader perspective of our Jewishness, in the sense that in so many ways, what I find in our world today is that we teach the Jewishness that people want to hear about. We teach the Jewishness that's going to be easily acceptable by everyone. So, you know something? You're right. You're wrong. The truth of the matter is, I'm thinking more of the Kiruv movement. In a certain way, the Kiruv movement is like
they're already wanting. It's like
the Kiruv movement. The Kiruv movement is that there's a certain aspect of marketing in the Kiruv movement. You're not going to sell.
That's food.
Right. You're going to get people interested in it, and there are aspects of Torah that people like or whatever, so you're going to get into it. The point is that the other aspects of Torah may be, you may not, it may not be so easy to sell them. Therefore, there's I'm not trying to be critical of movement, because Kiruv movement has done a lot, but what I find is that in our world we usually project or try to project usually one. A lot of times you actually project one aspect of Torah, and every group has their one aspect of Torah, which is their big issue about Torah, and the one they're really pushing. And what occurs is the broader perspective of the diversity and wholeness. So you have your nationalist Jews. So the fact is their aspect of Torah is pushing the nation of Israel. Okay. And then you have your Jews who are into spirituality, and their thing is that they're pushing how you have some kind of spiritual connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then you have the other aspect of people which are pushing family life, and how Jewishness pushes family life. And all these people focus on this one aspect or that one aspect, and the breadth and the complexity and the spectrum of Jewishness is not totally perceived, especially in those challenges that really are things that you may not like so much, or may not be the ones that you really are into. So and that to me is something where people don't see the different aspects of it, and that has an effect. Okay, you find you're hanging around concepts of Jewishness that focus on one concept, and you're not thinking about other concepts, right? You're not thinking about this concept. It's like I want to give an example, which in doing so, it's like
what's your doctor?
No, because I spent it in school.
I'm trying to like you see, let's say focusing on things like say like pollution, let's say, or let's say the environment or things of that nature. Okay. How many times do you think you should think about the environment from a Torah perspective? There are people talk about the issues of what?
Every day. With brachas? No.
No, he's even asking that question. Why?
Driving a car,
why? The fact is that when you're thinking in terms of brachas, it's a very specific attitude. Is that an issue with brachas or not?
What do you define as thinking about nature?
I see what they're always they're always like people like Avrechim, like Haredim, don't really care about the idea of they don't care if pollution's happening. Or they don't care for David Suzuki and all that.
Yeah, I mean,
or how that connects to Torah,
or it's not relevant.
Jewish,
but I don't think it's just Haredim. I think a lot of people aren't like that.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact is that and also living with the ability to understand that you see, one of the things that comes out of this is the morale says, like, for example, there's nothing tahor that doesn't have a little tumah in it. There's nothing tameh that doesn't have a little tahor in it. The fact is that it's a little bit more difficult to sit there and say, 60-40. I'm making this decision. I understand there's going to be a cost to it, but the benefit overrides the cost. That's a much more difficult decision to make. There's a tougher decision. It's a lot easier to see things in just black and white terms. The truth is that it's a lot of decisions we have to render usually are difficult decisions. I think in terms of, let's say, certain aspects that involve, let's say, security in terms of Eretz Yisrael and stuff like that. It's a really tough decision. And when I hear people basically trying to say that every Arab in Israel is a terrorist, that makes it easy. That's a very nice easy thing, but it's not true. The fact of the matter is, it's a very tough decision, and it's very hard to decide this and that. And the fact of the matter is that it really is sad when someone who's not deserving of a negative consequence faces a negative consequence, and it's sad when someone who's not deserving of a positive consequence gets one. The truth of the matter is, it's tough to make decisions. And the fact is in halachic terms, a lot of times when you make a decision, it's one of the things that I find, let's say, two of the great moral issues in our world today, abortion and euthanasia, right? There's you see the tension in the scholarship, even as they say euthanasia is an issur v'sicha, even as they say, listen, it's murder, but you understand why a person wants to do euthanasia. As a person who has another 72 hours to live, is in remarkable pain. Even with morphine, he's still in pain, or he's suffering from the negative effects of morphine, and so forth and so forth. There's no chance he's going to live. He's got 72 hours to live. So you understand why someone sits there and says, well, I want to do euthanasia. On the other hand, the Torah says it's an issur v'sicha. It's murder. But the fact of the matter is you see the fact that the Gedolei Yisrael understood the tension. They understood the issue. You see, with abortion, there's an issue. Is it the right of the mother? Is the fetus part of the mother? Is the fetus a separate life? There's a tension involved. And the fact of the matter is that you see, and the truth is you understand this tension. I mean, you see the Gedolei Poskim dealing with it. You have a woman who was raped at 16 years old by some thug in the street. Okay, and the issue comes up that she's to do abortion or not. Boy, you should see the way the Poskim worked on it. They saw both sides. Yeah, it's a life. It's just a. On the other hand, she's going to go mentally. She's having a, and you see before, and that's where you often find my focus. I've always felt this in certain ways, but the fact is, and I saw actually someone. One of the major poskim of the previous generation actually says the idea of Elu ve'elu tells you that in a certain understanding of halacha there is a breadth of possibility. You're seeing the bigger picture of it. And the fact is that and the answers are contradictory. This piece of meat is either kosher or not kosher. But the fact is that the machlokas that may exist in that person, this side saying it's kosher, this side, that may show underlying conceptual distinctions that we should be aware of. And we should understand that decisions come out of complexity. And Jewishness comes out of complexity. And the oneness of it, and that really in a certain way is the marvel of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. The oneness of it. Okay, in other words, when I think about the spectrum of opinions in halacha and the machlokasim, to me that's a further indication of the awesomeness of the oneness of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. The fact is that it's just, but as we look at it in terms of every individual is different, and therefore every individual, we're supposed to become, our own oneness. But our oneness is going to be our oneness of our own personality. Every human being is unique. And then we're supposed to become Am Yisrael, one nation. Right? The unity of our nation. Unity coming about from the collection of the diversity. Right? We have 12 Shvatim. The reason I will talk about each of the Shvatim have their own Nusach HaTfilah. The fact of the matter is that then they all have to come together in one.